guys, so on today's episode of Dished Out, we're going to be cooking a garlic and herbs steak tips with zucchini noodles. So let's go ahead and get started because this should be a fun one today. Now that we have the inch chopped of our zucchini, we're going to go ahead and do a thick spiral of them. I just have a good cook hand spiraler. Basically, what you're going to do is you're going to take the end of it, put it in there. You're going to try to get the core. Take this. You can use a hand spiraler whenever it gets low there, but usually you can just use your hand, and it will spiral out quite nicely like that. And then after we get done, you're gonna get a little core like that, and then at the end you can cut it off. But we're gonna go ahead and spiral all these out, and then I'm gonna put them in a colander. So that way, because they are gonna be watery, so we are gonna put them in there with a little bit of sea salt in order to kind of draw the water out and draw them out, so that way they're not super watery when we do cook them. Now that we have all of our zoodles now, I'm gonna put a little bit of sea salt on here. It just kind of helps release the water from them, so that way whenever you cook them, they don't turn out too watery. Though we are gonna be putting them in the oven, so it kind of helps a little bit. But I just grab a little bit of my sea salt here. Just sprinkle it a little bit on there. And you're gonna let them sit for about 30 minutes or so that way it has time to draw the water out. I'm gonna toss the salt a little bit with them. And I have just a little bowl under here just to kind of catch the water that falls out, that will be. And then later, whenever they are done settling, I will put them in paper towels and kind of pat them dry. All right, so while we're letting our zucchini noodles kind of chill off to the side and let them kind of basically soak out, we are gonna go ahead and start cutting up our steak. I just kind of have a chuck flat iron steak. I found it works the best. It's also a fairly decent price, especially since we're gonna be pan-searing the steak and not grilling them. You can grill them, it's up to you. I just find that pan-searing them helps keep in the flavor and everything. So today we are gonna be marinating it with the garlic, basil, and oregano leaves and a little bit of sea salt. Instead of using butter like some recipes call for, we're actually going to be using olive oil. It creates the same smooth texture within it, but also less calories. So let's go ahead and get started on that. Now that we've got our steak all cut up, we're gonna go ahead and just add it to this bowl. It makes it easier for mixing and letting it marinate for just a little bit. Alrighty. Also, whenever you're cutting up your steak, make sure you cut any gristle off, so that way whenever you cook it, it's not hard to bite into whenever you're chewing. So we're gonna go ahead and add a little bit of oregano leaves. I'm probably gonna add about a tablespoon or so. Kind of let that just kind of sit in there. With basil, we're gonna add about half a tablespoon. And then we're going to add about half a tablespoon of garlic as well. Maybe a tablespoon, let it kind of really soak in there. And then for olive oil, I'm gonna add in we're just gonna add in 2 cupfuls. Kind of let it soak in there. We're gonna let that marinate as well with the zucchini noodles on the side. Make sure we stir that up nice and well so we get this all evenly coated in here. You can hand mix it. I just try not to be as messy sometimes. But we're gonna get that all coated nice and evenly throughout there. And if you want to add a few more herbs and spices in there, go right ahead. Now that we got that all mixed up, we're gonna go ahead and let that sit aside for about 20 minutes now that we've had our noodles soaking for a little bit as well. Now that it's been about 30 minutes and we've let our zucchini kind of soak up or de-water itself basically, we just kind of, the sea salt helps kind of draw the water out, because if not, whenever you cook them, it turns out really watery and mushy, and you do not want mushy zucchini noodles. So here I'm gonna go ahead and spread them out. I've got a paper towel here because I'm gonna dry them off a little bit more. Just kind of press that on there, and you can see the moisture starting to come out. So just kind of squeeze them a little bit. You don't want to squeeze them too much because you don't want them to like turn into a mush. So let's go ahead and get some of that excess water out there. Then we are going to, there we go. All right, so a lot of these noodles are like the length of the entire zucchini, and you can't really slurp up zucchini noodles like you can with pasta. So like this one, as you can see, is super long. So what we're gonna do is we're actually gonna chop some of this up to make it a little bit easier for whenever we cook and eat it. So it's just kind of, doesn't have to be precise, just kind of cutting them up there. And then that way it's a little easier for you to eat, and they're a little in better pieces. All right, now what we're gonna do is we're going to, now that that's all kind of cut up, we're gonna transfer it to our baking sheets. There are multiple different ways you can make zucchini noodles. You can saute them, or you can put them in the oven and they turn out a little bit drier, so they're a little more crunchier. Just put down a little vegetable oil so that way it doesn't stick. And we're gonna go ahead and evenly spread them out. You might have to make these in batches because you don't wanna have them overlapping too much, that way they dry fairly well. And right now I currently have my oven preheated to 350 degrees, so it'll help kind of cook them and make them dry. I'm gonna put them in there for about 10 to 15 minutes. I'm gonna check on them. And then, like I said, you might have to cook these in batches, kind of, if you have a lot of them. You might be able to squeeze these on here. So let's go ahead and do that. Alrighty. And now that I have those evenly layered out there, I'm gonna go ahead and add the same seasoning that I marinated the steak in, which is a garlic, basil, and oregano. So I'm just gonna sprinkle a little bit of garlic on there. Maybe like a teaspoon total. Basil is gonna be about the same, just kind of sprinkle it on. It's gonna be just enough to give them some flavor. Get some oregano. And then if you want to add a little bit of salt, you can. Sprinkle a little bit of sea salt. And then, like I said, I'm gonna throw these in the oven for about 10 to 15 minutes, and I'll check on them about 10 minutes to see if they need a little bit longer. Now, while your zucchini is cooking in the oven, go ahead and heat up a pan. Make sure it's a medium to medium high heat. I've already heated this pan up. I'm gonna add about a tablespoon of olive oil, so that way we can throw our, let that heat up for just a second. Now, whenever you're heating your pan, you don't want to put your olive oil right away, because if not, it'll burn your oil. So put it in there after the pan heats up and it doesn't burn. And we're gonna pan sear our steak for about probably 3 to 5 minutes until it's nice and brown, and depending on your consistency, probably up to, I like mine medium rare, so that's probably when I cook it today. It's gonna be about 3 to 5 minutes, maybe a little bit longer. So now that the zucchini and the steak is done, which by the way, I had the zucchini in for 10 minutes in the oven, it turned out to be this great crunchy but soft zucchini, so that way that you don't want it too mushy, because if not, then it's not good. You need some kind of crunch to it. So we're gonna go ahead and plate it. Put about maybe about a cup of noodles on your plate. And then we're gonna do about half a cup of steak. I'm just gonna kind of put that on there. And voila, you have a pan-seared steak bites and zucchini noodles. Thanks for watching, guys, and joining me on Dished Out. And make sure you like and subscribe so that way you're updated when any new content drops.